Louise and Jim's when they lived out there in Marengo on the farm, before they built their new house. This was the old house that they moved out of Jeffersonville and went down there, and they was living in that, and then they built a new house.
Is this their house?
This was their house.
You're only looking at these two right here.
No, this was taken inside her house.
At Louise's house?
Louise's house, inside her house, and that was Mother. That was taken had a birthday party for all of the family. There's Louise and Philo and Kenneth and Margaret, and all had birthdays. And this was taken out in their yard. Conservation, this was taken over to Uncle Paul's here, and this was Uncle Carl, and there's Woody, your dad, and Uncle Paul, and this was Uncle Ralph Hollowell.
Uncle Ralph from who?
Aunt Ursul's husband.
Aunt Ursul's husband?
Aunt Ursul's husband.
And there is Grandma
and that's her sister, Aunt Ole. Aunt Ole Bullington. They were Suttons. That's a Sutton family. This was a Sutton up here. This is a Sutton family. That's her older sister.
Who are these people right here?
No, that was taken down at Leavenworth at the Conservation Club when we got together once a year down there for a family reunion, the Sutton and Jones family reunion. And this was Uncle Paul. That's my brother, Kenneth, Meredith, and Philo. It was all my brothers. And then this was Uncle Carl back here, and this was Wayne, my cousin. That's Aunt Ursul's son, Mother's sister's son. This is Mother's brother. Paul, Kenneth, and Philo, or Meredith and Philo.
And then up here.
This was at Uncle Paul's house. Uncle Paul built that house back in 1952. I think it was 52 when he built that. And this was Aunt Gladys, Uncle Mother's brother's wife. They live in Springfield, Missouri. And this is me, your mother. And this is Aunt Ursul, Mother's sister. And this was Helena, Paul's wife. Taken at Uncle Paul's house.
That's Uncle Shep?
No, this is Uncle Carl, and that's Paul, my brother. That's and Uncle Carl Sutton and Paul Jones, my brother. This is Paul Jones, Kenneth Jones, and Meredith Jones, and Sheldon Sutton, Uncle Sheb, and Philo Jones, and Ralph Wayne Hollowell. He's a cousin. That's an uncle. 2 years old.
Daddy and Linda.
Yeah, Daddy, you and Linda. He was 2 years old and she was 5. And this is see how little the trees were there, and then I heard way up above the house and snow scene. Both of those are good snow scene.
So we go to our house?
It's a better one.
Mom and Dad? Where was that taken?
That was taken on a trip down in Kentucky when we went to, me and Paul and Helena and Grace Ellen Anthony all took off and went down around Lexington or somewhere there for, I forget, it was in a motel.
Got all 4 of these pictures.
All 4 of these. Now this, I think, was taken right after we come back in 60, he retired in 67, so that was after, so it was about 60, Paul was 67 or 68 when that was taken. And we went down there to a funeral. Now, I can't remember which one it was, whether it was Uncle Addison's or Aunt Myrtle's funeral. That was Woody's and Elvin's. And same thing here, and of course that was the same one there. And this was taken out in front of our house the day that we went down to your at Fort Knox when you was that orientation or whatever it was you had down there. And this was Paul and Helena and their first 2 grandchildren, Julie and Debbie. Well, this was Aunt Ursel.
So you started, I got these
Oh.
four.
Oh, these four. Oh, well, okay. This was Aunt Ursel and Uncle Nolan. She's 82 right now, and he was 91 this January when he died. Mm-hmm. He lived in Malta, Montana, and she lives in New Albany, Indiana. And this was taken back in, well, it says in 1970s when we got the picture made. It was 69, I think, when he was in for his birthday in October of 69. And he was from Malta, Montana, and they had a birthday party for him. This was Uncle Nolan and Uncle Ralph, her husband, Ralph Hollowell. And this was Uncle Nolan and my mother, and that's me, taken down Mother's trailer. This was a trailer. She lived in there at Grace Ellen's in Anthony's backyard. They had the trailer court right beside of it.
There's a better picture of the trailer.
Yeah. That's the trailer she lived in right in her backyard. Hers was in the yard, and then the trailer court was beyond that. And it's still there. This was the Sutton family. My mother was a Sutton before she married Jones. And this is the baby of the family, Aunt Ellen, Uncle Carl, Uncle Nolan, Uncle Sheb, Uncle Sheldon, we call him Uncle Sheb, and Uncle Russell, Mother, Bertie Sutton was her name, and Aunt Ursel and Aunt Ole. And they're all dead now, but Aunt Ursel and Uncle Sheb.
This was me when I was in 7th grade or 6th grade?
No, I think
6th grade.
6th, I believe.
My Nehru shirt on. My horn-rimmed glasses and hair.
You did have hair at one time.
I did have hair at one time.
You had pretty hair when you graduated from high school.
In the military, they shaved it off and never grew back. This is Grandma Link's house? This is Grandma Link's house?
Yeah, that's Grandma Link's house. That's where Charlie Link and Louie Link lived till they both died.
How old were they when they died?
He died in 1959 on July the 2nd, 1959. And, or 1957, I'll take that back. He died July the 2nd, 1957. And my dad then died July the 4th, 1959, just 2 days later. But they were both buried on the 6th of July, which was kind of a coincidence because they had to hold him over until Woody got back from overseas. He went to Newfoundland then. He was 72, I believe, or 74. I forgot which. I'd have to go back to, when he was born. And this was a house trailer that Woody and I built down in Alamogordo, New Mexico. And we pulled it up here and left it whenever Woody went overseas to Korea, and before you were born. And we lived in there, and it stayed there until after Woody died when we sold it. But we pulled that all over the United States. We put it together with the screws, built it out of scrap lumber. We went to Elkhart, Indiana, and bought the chassis and the roof bows on here, and the frame, all the roof bows that went across there. And then we got the rest of it scrap lumber, and we also bought the windows that went in there from up at Elkhart, Indiana, and we built it from bottom up, and we lived in it, pulled it all over the United States in different places from back to when we left. When he come back from Korea, we pulled it back to California and lived in it, and then we pulled it back to Indiana then and left it down here. Stayed there till after Woody died, and we sold it then at the sale. But that still held together. There was nothing, the door frame kind of got a little bit warped and needed a new screen door and things for it. But other than that, it was still in good shape. But there was not a nail in there. It was all screwed together with screws. And that thing really helped the road good.
Who are these people? Is it Aunt Mabel?
This is Aunt Mabel Archibald. She was Aunt Mabel Jones, my dad's sister, and she married Charlie Archibald. And she's standing there in our front yard by our lilac tree, and that's my mother.
How old was she then?
She was around 68 or 9 then. She lived to be, I think, 84 when she died. And this was you've taken that too.
Mm-hmm.
This was the mother again on our front porch, and that's St. Mabel.
What's this down here?
This was taken out there in Mineral, Washington, at where my cousin lived. You remember when we went to Mount Rainier and tried to find where he lived and his grave and everything? He died out there, and this was the little place where he lived, and it was all grown up. This was his grave over here, and this was the entrance when we went into the...
Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett Link, I guess.
Oh, that was when David Crockett was, that was all on television and everything. That was the Davy Crockett hat with the tail on there, the coonskin tail. Everybody was buying Davy Crockett caps. It's from the wild frontier down in Kentucky, Boone County, Kentucky. And this was taken over New. No, that's here after we moved back. It's here. You reading your story.
Who is this?
This is Ralph Denzel Sutton, and he left home, went in the service, and he never come back, very often. They never knew too much about him after he went in the service, and he stayed in Florida most of the time, and he married this, I think her name was Mary, nobody ever met her, and he was killed or died or something down there, and they shipped his body back here, and he's buried out in the cemetery where all the Suttons and Joneses and everybody is buried, but we never did know the full story behind his death. He come without any escort or anything, and they just said they were sending him home, and so that's about all we knew. We never did find out any more about it. He was 45, I think, when he died. This was Charles Link, and that's me standing there by him. We were on our way. That's the day we left in January the 6th, 1950, to go to New Mexico, right after we were married. We were married on November the 12th, 1949, and we stayed here from 49 until January of 50, and that was January the 6th, 1950, and we were dressed, and I was ready to leave for New Mexico.
Why was he in a wheelchair? What's the matter with him?
He always had back trouble. He never had too many of him standing up, and he had fell and broke his leg or broke his hip rather on the backyard, and he was in a wheelchair from then on. He never got out of his wheelchair, and that was I believe Woody told me it was back in 43, 44 when he fell and broke his hip, and he's been in a wheelchair ever since. Never saw him out. He never couldn't walk. But he always had some kind of back trouble, and they took him to doctors in Indianapolis and all around Evansville to specialists, and they never could find out what was really wrong with him. It's kind of like a deterioration of the bone or something. He couldn't stand up. When you just bump him a little bit, and over he'd go. He just couldn't control himself. He was wobbly. And
how old was he then?
He was about 59, 50. He was around 64 or 5 there, I think.
Okay, that's Grandpa Jones and Grandma?
Yeah, that's Grandpa Jones. That's my dad.
What was his name?
William Leonard Jones. And then Mother, Bertie Grace Sutton Jones. And this was her brother, Uncle Nolan Sutton from Malta, Montana. And this was when he was in, and I think that was the year 1936 when he was here. He was in for about 3 months that time. Mm-hmm. And see, there's a grape harbor there. It's in the winter time. It's all dead, and that thing.
1936.
Mm-hmm.
This is a picture of Dad and me and
Paul. Going down into the basement. See his cars down into the basement.
Now, who are all these people?
And this is the Jones family, and this was taken up to Uncle Charlie Jones. This Uncle Charlie and Aunt Ruth. It's taken at their home, And this was his dad, my grandfather.
What was his name?
Benjamin Franklin Jones. And this is me.
That's you?
That's me.
How old were you?
I think I was 10 there. And I'd have to go back to her. That's Grace Allen. Yes, see. Oh, no, I was not. That's Grace Allen. I was only 8. I was 8 when she was born, so I might have been 9 there. This is Grace Allen. This is my dad.
And his name was?
William Leonard Jones. And
what did he do?
he was a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
He carpentered all his life. And this was Meredith. And this was Grandma Jones. Her name was Mary Elizabeth Billman Jones. And then this is Kenneth. Well, here's Melvin. This was my older, but he was 2 years older than me, and he was an invalid. He never went to school in his life, and he knew, but he couldn't talk so anybody could understand him. He was tongue-tied for one thing, but the family could understand him, but nobody else. And we never did really know back in those days, no specialists or anything. You didn't know what was really wrong with him, but he was a good child. He never caused any trouble or anything, and he was just as good and kind and never had any temper, never seen him mad. He never got mad. He just played with the kids, the babies, and he played like a little 5 or 6 year old child all of his life, and he died when he was 28 years old and he had a cerebral hemorrhage and died. And this is Kenneth, my other brother. He was 2 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm. Who's that guy up there?
This is Uncle Charlie Jones, my dad's brother, and his wife, Aunt Ruth, and they never had any children. And when I was 2 years old, we moved from our place, which was just down the road a little ways, about 4 or 5 blocks, city blocks you'd call, and moved up to his house and lived up there while my dad tore the old log house down and built the house that is standing now. And we lived in Uncle Charlie and Aunt Ruth moved upstairs.
You lived in a log house?
Yeah. I was born in a log house.
Born in a log house.
Mm-hmm. Me and Paul and Melvin and me and Kenneth were born in the log house, and he was 6 weeks old when we moved up to Uncle Charlie's. And I can remember when we moved up there and when we lived up there. So I remember things when I was 2 years old from then on. Well, I don't remember everything, but I remember living up there and remember moving back and remember Dad building the house, and Uncle Charlie and Aunt Ruth they moved upstairs and let us have the downstairs. And while we moved up there and we moved back in before Meredith was born, 2 years, well, about a year and a half later, before Meredith was born in August. He was born August the 25th, and we moved back in, I think, June, July, before he was, but June, I think it was, when we moved back into the new home. And a wash tub and everything.
Okay. This is Paul?
This is Paul Jones, my brother, and this is taken out home down down the lane there. And that's Grace Allen, and that's me, and that's Meredith, and that's Louise, and that's Philo. Philo was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Meredith always had such a dark picture, and he always had a cap on. When he was a little fellow, he always wore a bonnet. He always wanted his bonnet on. Everybody wore a bonnet. He wore a bonnet till he was 4 or 5 years, 6 years old.
Who's this up there?
And that's Tilden and Thelma out in the front yard with the calf. They had a calf that they had to feed, and so it was a pet.
And this looks like a hay.
That's over in the field in front of the house there. It's somebody's making hay, I think, there. And this is a dog. It looks like a goat. It looks like, to me, but it's a dog running.
Mm-hmm.
That was Paul when he was 16 years old.
Fancy suit on.
Yeah, that's taken out there by the lilac bush. There he is again now. This was when just before he got married, him in his white shoes. Before him and Helena got married, and that's Phyllis when she was a baby. That's the old wagon that Paul built, that we don't have many pictures of that. And that's Melvin, Paul, and me, and Kenneth, and Meredith. And he built that, and he had a steering wheel, and he had wire, I think, run up there, or a rope or something, I guess. It wound around that steering wheel, and that would turn the wheels, and wrapped around twice, and we'd ride down over the hill on that. But he had the front seat, but he built that now when he was, he's that old, about 14, 15, 16.
Who's this over here?
That's Paul and Helena.
Lena?
And that's taken down at Fernie's, I think it's her mother's place.
This looks like Grandma over here.
Yeah, that's one of the best pictures that Mother ever had. She's so happy looking there, and
I never
that's
saw her
Tilden.
smile.
She's smiling, see there?
Yeah.
And there's a calf laying down there, and that's he's down there on that old running gears of a trailer, I think, down there below the barn. But that's Tilden and Thelma. That's the prettiest picture that I've ever seen her. And this is her mother. This is Grandma Sutton and Grace Ellen. This is Grandma Jones and Grace Ellen. Grace Ellen was about
Jones, huh?
Yeah. Can you get all of them, or I'd like to get a picture of that wagon if you...
The wagon? I've already got the wagon.
Oh, you have? Oh.
And then, that's Grandma Sutton.
Grandma Sutton. Nancy Jane Sutton.
Nancy
Jane Hawkins. She was a Hawkins, H-A-W-K-I-N-S. Hawkins, H-A-W-K-I-N-S.
And who was this?
And this is Grandma Jones, Mary Elizabeth Jones, Dillman Jones. And that's Grace Ellen she was holding. This is Meredith in his bonnet. And that's the one I made that bonnet out in California when we come back. Or no, Spokane. I made it in Spokane and brought it back and gave it to him when we had that family reunion. That's Grace Ellen. And that's Mother. And it's standing there beside. This is the cellar door that went in, kind of like Linda's door that lifts up, but then they'd up the basement.
Now,
This was all of us except this one right here, and that was Uncle Noble's daughter, Frances Jones. But this was all of us kids here. Kenneth. Here's the...
how many of them were in your family altogether?
There were 10. 4 girls and 6 boys.
And the dog.
And the dog. I think that was old Carlo. This is Uncle Carl's
You heard
girls.
this one here. This is a good.
Yeah.
This is another one of. It's you up there.
That's me and Melvin and Kenneth and Meredith and Grace Ellen and Philo and Louise. That's the way they went. I mean, from the top to the bottom of it.
And who is he?
Those are Uncle Carl's girls. Now I think I remember.
That's you, isn't it?
This is me. And this is Mildred and Lucille and Betty and Helen and Wilma and Grace Ellen and Louise. That's Paul again. That's when we were smaller. Me and Melvin and Kenneth and Meredith and Grace Ellen and Philo and Louise and Tilden. Thelma wasn't born yet then.
Who are these people?
That's Grandma and Grandpa Jones. He's real dark, but that's taken out home by the lilac.
Grandma and Grandpa Jones. That was your mom's mom?
No, Dad's Jones.
Yeah, Dad.
And that's his mom and mother and dad is Benjamin Franklin and Jones and Mary Elizabeth Dillman Jones. And this was me and Woody when we were dating just before he went overseas to in the Berlin airlift, and then he come back and we got married since he come back. And that's Mr. By's barn back over. Oh, this one here. Yeah, that was. I think very similar. That's Thelma, I guess. There, I have to go back to and Melvin and Kenneth and Meredith and Grace Ellen and Philo and Louise and Tilden.